Since 9/11, and seemingly without the notice of most Americans, the federal government has assumed the authority to institute martial law, arrest a wide swath of dissidents, citizen and non-citizen alike, and detain people without legal or constitutional recourse in the event of an emergency influx of immigrants in the U.S., or to support the rapid development of new programs. Beginning in 1999, the government has entered into a series of single-bid contracts with Halliburton subsidiary Kellogg, Brown & Root, KBR, to build detention camps at undisclosed locations within the United States. The government has also contracted with several companies to build thousands of rail cars, some reportedly equipped with shackles, ostensibly to transport detainees. According to diplomat and author Peter Dale Scott, the KBR contract is part of a Homeland Security plan titled Endgame, which sets as its goal the removal of all removable aliens and potential terrorists. Fraudbusters such as Representative Henry Waxman, D. Los Angeles, have complained about these contracts, saying that more taxpayer dollars should not go to taxpayer gouging Halliburton. But the real question is, what kind of new programs require the construction and refurbishment of detention facilities in nearly every state of the Union with the capacity to house perhaps millions of people? Sect. 1042 of the 2007 National Defense Authorization Act, NDAA, use of the armed forces in major public emergencies, gives the executive the power to invoke martial law. For the first time in more than a century, the president is now authorized to use the military in response to a natural disaster, a disease outbreak, a terrorist attack, or any other condition in which the president determines that domestic violence has occurred to the extent that state officials cannot maintain public order. The Military Commissions Act of 2006, rammed through Congress just before the 2006 midterm elections, allows for the indefinite imprisonment of anyone who donates money to a charity that turns up on a list of terrorist organizations, or who speaks out against the government's policies. The law calls for secret trials for citizens and non-citizens alike. Also in 2007, the White House quietly issued National Security Presidential Directive 51, NSPD 51, to ensure continuity of government in the event of what the document vaguely calls a catastrophic emergency. Should the president determine that such an emergency has occurred, he and he alone is empowered to do whatever he deems necessary to ensure continuity of government. This could include everything from canceling elections to suspending the Constitution to launching a nuclear attack. Congress has yet to hold a single hearing on NSPD 51. U.S. Representative Jane Harman, D. Venice, Los Angeles County, has come up with the new way to expand the domestic war on terror. Her Violent Radicalization and Homegrown Terrorism Prevention Act of 2007, H.R. 1955, which passed the House by the lopsided vote of 404-6, would set up a commission to examine and report upon the facts and causes of so-called violent radicalism and extremist ideology, then make legislative recommendations on combating it. According to commentary in the Baltimore Sunday, Representative Harman and her colleagues from both sides of the aisle believe the country faces a native brand of terrorism, and needs a commission with sweeping investigative power to combat it. A clue as to where Harman's commission might be aiming is the Animal Enterprise Terrorism Act, a law that labels those who engage in sit-ins, civil disobedience, trespass, or any other crime in the name of animal rights as terrorists. Other groups in the crosshairs could be anti-abortion protesters, anti-tax agitators, immigration activists, environmentalists, peace demonstrators, Second Amendment rights supporters. The list goes on and on. According to author Naomi Wolf, the National Counterterrorism Center holds the names of roughly 775,000 terror suspects, with the number increasing by 20,000 per month. Reports from the United States are also reporting that for the first time since their civil war, U.S. troops are being trained to take over whole villages and towns to capture and arrest anyone they deem a threat. And as we can read of one such U.S. military unit in Iowa, the Carroll National Guard unit will train on urban military operations by holding a 4-day exercise at Arcadia. The purpose of the April 25 drill will be to gather intelligence, then search for and apprehend a suspected weapons dealer, according to Sergeant Mike Kotz, Readiness NCO for Alpha Company. Citizens, law enforcement, media and other supporters will participate. Troops will spend Thursday, April 2nd, staging at a forward operations base at Carroll. The next day company leaders will conduct reconnaissance and begin patrolling the streets of Arcadia to identify possible locations of the weapons dealer. The primary phase will be done Saturday, April 4th, when convoys will be deployed from Carroll to Arcadia. Pictures of the arms dealer will be shown in Arcadia, and soldiers will go door to door asking if residents have seen the suspect. Soldiers will knock only at households that have agreed to participate in the drill, Kotz noted. Once credible intelligence has been gathered, said Kotz, portions of the town will be roadblocked and more in-depth searches of homes and vehicles will be conducted in accordance with the residents' wishes. One of the techniques we use in today's political environment is cordon and knock, Kotz explained. We ask for the head of the household, get permission to search, then have them open doors and cupboards. The homeowner maintains control. We peer over their shoulder, and the soldier uses the homeowner's body language and position to protect him. During this phase of the operation, troops will interact with residents and media while implementing crowd control measures and possibly treating and evacuating injured persons. The unit will use a Black Hawk helicopter for overhead command and control, and to simulate medevos. The drill will culminate in the apprehension of the suspected arms dealer. The sheer Orwellian aspect of U.S. military officials and U.S. propaganda media organs using their own citizens to assist in the apprehension of their family, friends and neighbors labeled as enemies of the state are too chilling to comprehend, but become downright frightening when coupled with the news that the U.S. government is now moving to cut off access to all of their citizens to the ammunition they would need to defend themselves against these fascist barbarians. Virtually unknown to the masses of gun-owning Americans is that their fears of having their government confiscate their guns was never the greatest one to have, but to the taking away all of these people's access to the ammunition needed for their guns is what the master plan for subjugating them has always been, and as we can read, it looks like those who said the Obama administration would strike while the iron is hot may have been correct. And the administration may be doing it in a way that does not require them to even get a vote in Congress. In this morning's edition of The Shooting Wire, Jim Shepard writes that Canadian officials have it on good authority our State Department may be on the verge of cutting off all imports of certain calibers of ammunition. Most astounding of all of these events is that the vast majority of Americans still look upon their new President Obama as being different from their former President Bush. But as each day goes by, the evidence clearly shows he is nothing more than the figurehead put into place to enact the final endgame leading to the final destruction of the United States. From Bush's war on terror, which he is continuing, to Bush's tax cuts to the wealthy elite he is continuing, to his backing of Bush's torture policies, to his attempts to kill the case against seeking to find the millions of lost Bush emails, to his attempts to maintain Bush's secrecy on spying and torture of U.S. citizens, and so much more, President Obama is marching in virtual lockstep with his predecessor, virtually ignored by the masses of Americans, soon to be destroyed by what they refuse to see and defend themselves against. To what is going to become of these once great American people we need look no further than the words of the British champion of social justice George Orwell, who in his prophetic work, 1984, stated, "The ideal set up by the party was something huge, terrible, and glittering. A world of steel and concrete, of monstrous machines and terrifying weapons, a nation of warriors and fanatics, marching forward in perfect unity, all thinking the same thoughts and shouting the same slogans, perpetually working, fighting, triumphing, persecuting. 300 million people all with the same face. How terrifying it is for those Americans not having the same face as their mindless fellow citizens we know all too well, as we have seen them before in the gulags of Nazi Germany and Communist Russia, the killing fields of Cambodia, and now, soon to be in the United States. All of these things are already prophesied in the scriptures, who many people call the Bible. The second coming of the Messiah is at hand. You better get right with the God of Abraham, Isaac and Jacob, before it is too late. You are writing your history, Write it well.